The Galactic Council chambers buzzed with the familiar mixture of clicks, chirps, and harmonious tones that represented diplomatic discourse among the 47 member species. At the center of the vast crystalline amphitheater, Ambassador Zethkar of the Veilthon Empire stood at the speaking podium, his forearms gesturing dramatically as his translator collar converted his melodic speech into dozens of languages simultaneously. Esteemed colleagues, Zethkar's voice resonated through the chamber. We gather today to address what has become the most perplexing mystery of our galactic community. For 3 standard cycles, we have extended invitation after invitation to the species known as humans from the Sol system. Each time they respond with the same maddeningly brief message: "Thank you for your invitation. We are not ready to join at this time." A chorus of agreement rippled through the assembled delegates. The insectoid crystal clicked their mandibles in annoyance, while the gaseous Netherians shifted their containment fields in what could only be interpreted as exasperation. "Not ready?" scoffed Ambassador Veltar of the Hegemony, her serpentine form coiling around her elevated platform. Every species in this council achieved faster-than-light travel decades before making first contact. These humans have had FTL capability for over 50 standard years, yet they cling to their single star system like frightened younglings. The chamber erupted in laughter, a cacophony of alien amusement that echoed off the crystal walls. Even the usually stoic granite lords of Korthax allowed their massive stone forms to rumble with what passed for mirth among their kind. Zethkar raised a primary arm for silence. "Indeed, my friends. Consider the facts we have gathered through our long-range observations. The humans possess crude but functional FTL drives, basic energy shields, and what can generously be called adequate weapons technology. Their ships are utilitarian boxes of metal and composite materials, lacking even the most basic aesthetic considerations. They have colonized exactly 7 worlds in their immediate stellar neighborhood, all within a mere 20 light-years of their origin point." 7 worlds in 50 years, interrupted Counselor Thais of the Zephyrian Collective, her crystalline form chiming with derision. "My species colonized 7 star systems in our first decade of FTL travel." "Precisely," Zethkar continued, warming to his theme. "And yet, when we offer them the accumulated knowledge of 47 advanced civilizations, access to trade routes spanning half the galaxy, and the protection of our combined fleets, they respond with polite refusal. It can only be concluded that humans are quite simply cowards." The word hung in the air like a poison cloud. In galactic society, few insults carried more weight than the accusation of cowardice. To be deemed lacking in courage was to be considered fundamentally unfit for civilized discourse. Ambassador Kethmore of the Axiom Conclave, whose people had been spacefaring for over a millennium, leaned forward on his hover platform. "The evidence certainly supports this conclusion. Our scouts report that human vessels actively avoid contact with any non-human ships. When approached, they immediately retreat to the safety of their heavily fortified worlds. They have even established what they call quarantine protocols to prevent any accidental cultural contamination." Quarantine protocols. The chamber dissolved into another wave of laughter. The very concept was absurd to species that had spent centuries mingling freely across the galaxy. Zethkar waited for the noise to subside before delivering his final observations. "Most telling of all, my colleagues, is their military posture. Human ships travel alone or in pairs, never in the great fleets that demonstrate strength and purpose. Their weapons are primitive kinetic projectiles and basic energy weapons that would barely scratch the hull of a modern warship. They have no planet killers, no dimensional disruptors, no temporal manipulation devices. They fight their own kind with ground-based conflicts using chemical explosives and metal projectiles. Metal projectiles. Veltar's species had abandoned such primitive weapons before they had even achieved spaceflight. What manner of backward species still relies on hurling pieces of metal at their enemies?" The Synthetic Collective's representative, a gleaming android designated Unit Prime 7, added its mechanical voice to the discussion. "Analysis of human communication patterns suggests additional cause for concern. Their entertainment media is filled with scenarios depicting invasion by hostile alien forces. This indicates a species-wide paranoia and persecution complex that may explain their isolation." "So they fear us," mused Counselor Thais. "Despite our repeated offers of friendship and alliance, they assume we mean them harm. How Primitive, Zethkar nodded sagely, which brings us to today's primary agenda item. The Council has invested considerable resources in attempting to establish relations with humanity. We have sent diplomatic vessels, cultural exchange proposals, and offers of technological advancement. All have been politely but firmly declined. The question before us is whether we should continue these efforts or simply move on. A thoughtful silence fell over the chamber. Resources were precious even for a galactic civilization. The idea of continuing to waste time and effort on a species that clearly lacked the courage to join the greater galactic community was becoming increasingly difficult to justify. I propose, Veltar said slowly, that we implement Standard Protocol 7. The chamber fell silent. Standard Protocol 7 was reserved for species deemed fundamentally incompatible with galactic civilization. It involved complete isolation, the establishment of a quarantine zone around their space, and a notation in all star charts marking their territory as uncontacted primitive zone. Seconded, rumbled one of the Granite Lords, their voice like grinding stone. Thirded, chimed the Zephyrian representative. As the votes accumulated, Zethkar felt a mixture of disappointment and relief. Humanity had shown such promise in their early observations. Their adaptability, their rapid technological development, their ability to thrive in diverse environments, all had suggested they might make valuable additions to the galactic community. But courage, it seemed, was not among their virtues. Very well, Zethkar announced as the final votes were tallied. By unanimous decision of the Galactic Council, humanity shall be classified as a non-contact species, effective immediately. All diplomatic overtures are hereby suspended, and a quarantine zone of 50 light-years shall be established around their space. As the delegates began to file out of the chamber, discussing more pressing matters of trade disputes and territorial negotiations, none of them noticed the small, almost invisible probe that had been silently recording every word of their session from its position among the crystal formations of the ceiling. None of them questioned why a species supposedly too cowardly to venture beyond their own local space would have the technology to infiltrate the most secure facility in the galaxy, and none of them wondered what humanity might have been preparing for during those 50 long years of silence. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck of the UES Defiance, watching as the massive space dock slowly rotated against the starfield beyond. The structure was so large that it generated its own gravitational field, keeping the thousands of workers and automated systems properly oriented as they completed their tasks. She had spent the better part of her adult life overseeing the construction of facilities like this one, hidden in the outer reaches of human space where no alien eyes could observe them. Final report. Admiral? Came the voice of Commander Harrison from behind her. She turned to see her aide approaching with a data tablet, his expression carefully neutral despite the magnitude of what those numbers represented. Let's hear it, Marcus, she said, accepting the tablet and beginning to scroll through the seemingly endless columns of data. As of this morning, we have completed construction of the 14th hidden shipyard. Current fleet strength stands at 12,000 vessels across all classes, with production continuing at maximum capacity. The Yamato-class dreadnoughts are rolling off the lines at a rate of 6 per month, while the smaller Raptor-class destroyers are being completed at 30 per week. Chen nodded, her eyes scanning the specifications. Each Yamato-class ship was nearly 2 kilometers long and packed with weaponry that the Galactic Council couldn't even imagine. The aliens had mocked humanity's primitive kinetic weapons, but they had never seen what happened when those projectiles were accelerated to 90% of light speed and guided by quantum-entangled targeting systems. Personnel status? She asked. All voluntary as always. We currently have 8 million active crew members, with another 12 million in various stages of training. The psychological conditioning programs have been remarkably successful. Every single person understands what's at stake. Chen allowed herself a small smile. The psychological conditioning was actually just the truth, presented carefully and completely. When humans learned that they were being evaluated by a galaxy full of predatory species, when they discovered that first contact was really a test to determine whether humanity was prey or predator, the response had been remarkably uniform. Not fear as the aliens expected, but cold, calculating determination. What about the other projects? Harrison's expression grew even more serious. Project Prometheus is ahead of schedule. We've successfully tested dimensional fold technology on 17 occasions, with no adverse effects. The fleet can now move from Earth to any human colony instantaneously, and our range appears to be unlimited. Chen felt a chill run down her spine despite the warmth of the observation deck. Dimensional fold technology was purely theoretical, even among the most advanced species in the galaxy. Humanity had achieved it by taking a completely different approach to the problem, one that involved weaponizing quantum mechanics in ways that would have horrified the peaceful scientific minds of their galactic neighbors. Project Oracle? Complete success. We now have undetectable surveillance devices in every major alien facility, including the Galactic Council chambers themselves. We've been listening to their conversations for the past 18 months. They genuinely believe we're primitive cowards hiding in our own star system. The irony was almost too perfect. While the aliens had been congratulating themselves on their advanced technology and sophisticated civilization, humanity had been watching them, learning from them, and preparing for the day when the pretense would no longer be necessary. And the Shepard Initiative? Harrison hesitated for just a moment. Ethical review boards are still debating the final implementation protocols, but the technology is ready. We can remotely disable any alien vessel's primary systems within a range of approximately 50 light-years. The process is completely undetectable until activation. Chen closed her eyes and took a deep breath. The Shepard Initiative was named after the first human to realize what the galaxy really was. Not a community of peaceful species sharing knowledge and resources, but a carefully maintained hierarchy where the strong dictated terms to the weak. Dr. Elizabeth Shepard had been humanity's first xenoanthropologist, and her analysis of alien cultural patterns had been both brilliant and terrifying. "How long do we have?" Chen asked. "Based on the Council's vote 3 days ago, they'll officially declare the quarantine zone in about 6 months. After that, any human vessel that leaves our designated space will be considered a violation of galactic law and destroyed." Chen turned back to the viewport, watching as another massive ship slowly emerged from the construction bays. The U.S. Retribution was the largest vessel humanity had ever built, a command ship designed to coordinate fleet movements across multiple star systems simultaneously. Its primary weapon was a planet killer, though the aliens would never recognize it as such. To them, it would look like another primitive human ship with oversized engines and crude armor plating. "They really think we're cowards," she mused. "The psychological profiles are consistent across all 47 species," Harrison confirmed. "They view our isolation as evidence of fear rather than preparation. Our refusal to join their council is seen as weakness rather than strategic patience. Even our ship designs contribute to their misconceptions." Chen almost laughed. Human ships did look primitive compared to the elegant, graceful vessels favored by species like the Velthon or Zephyrians. But those beautiful ships were designed by cultures that had never faced a true existential threat. Human vessels were built by a species that had learned warfare in the trenches of 2 world wars, refined it through decades of Cold War paranoia, and perfected it through the crucible of resource competition and survival. "What about the colonies?" she asked. "All 7 public colonies are proceeding according to plan. Agricultural output, resource extraction, and population growth all match the profiles we've established. The aliens see exactly what we want them to see. A slow, cautious species barely capable of maintaining 7 marginal settlements." But Chen knew the truth. Each marginal settlement was actually a carefully constructed facade hiding massive underground installations. New Geneva wasn't just a farming colony. It was the primary research facility where humanity's greatest scientific minds were developing weapons technology that made their current arsenal look like stone knives. Kepler Station wasn't just a mining operation. It was the command center for the most sophisticated intelligence network in galactic history. Status of the sleeper colonies? Harrison smiled for the first time since entering the observation deck. All 43 hidden colonies are fully operational and self-sufficient. Total human population now exceeds 2 billion, spread across 60 star systems. The aliens have no idea we exist outside of our original 7 worlds. Chen felt a moment of genuine pride. While the Galactic Council had been debating humanity's cowardice, human colony ships had been quietly establishing settlements in regions of space that the aliens considered worthless. Systems with unstable stars, worlds with hostile environments, asteroid fields too dangerous for conventional mining operations. Each settlement had been a triumph of human adaptability and engineering. creating thriving communities in places where more advanced species couldn't survive. Timeline for the revelation? Dr. Morrison's team estimates we'll be ready to proceed in approximately 8 months. All preparations should be complete well before the aliens attempt to enforce their quarantine. Chen nodded slowly. 8 months to finish the greatest deception in galactic history. 8 months before humanity would reveal that the species the aliens considered too primitive and cowardly to be worth their attention had actually been preparing for war on a scale that none of them could imagine. Commander, send a message to all fleet commanders. Full operational security protocols remain in effect. No one does anything that might alert the aliens to our true capabilities. Yes, Admiral. As Harrison left to carry out his orders, Chen remained at the viewport, watching the steady stream of ships moving in and out of the hidden facility. Soon, very soon, the galaxy would learn what humanity had been doing during those 50 years of silence, and then they would understand why humans had never been afraid of the dark. Dr. Elena Vasquez stepped out of the quantum elevator and into what most humans called the archive, though its official designation was the Xenological Research Center of New Geneva. The massive underground facility stretched for kilometers in every direction, its corridors lined with containment units, analysis chambers, and holographic displays showing detailed breakdowns of every alien species known to humanity. Dr. Vasquez called out her research partner, Dr. James Park, as he approached with a datapad clutched in his hands. His expression was a mixture of excitement and concern that Elena had learned to recognize over their 5 years of collaboration. You need to see the latest psychological profiles from the council session. Elena accepted the pad and began scrolling through the data as they walked deeper into the facility. Around them, hundreds of researchers worked quietly at their stations, analyzing everything from alien communication patterns to weapons technology to social structures. What they had learned over the past decade would have shocked the galaxy's so-called advanced civilizations. They're actually getting more confident in their assessment, Elena observed, noting the statistical analysis of the aliens' recent conversations. Confidence level in human cowardice has increased by 12% since last month. That's not the interesting part, James said, guiding her toward a particular workstation where Dr. Sarah Kim was hunched over a complex holographic display. Show her what you found, Sarah. Sarah looked up, her eyes bright with the thrill of discovery. Elena, we've been running behavioral analysis on the council species for months, but I decided to dig deeper into their historical records. What I found changes everything we thought we knew about galactic civilization. The holographic display shifted, showing a timeline stretching back thousands of years. Elena could see the rise and fall of various civilizations, marked by different colors and symbols indicating technological advancement, territorial expansion, and population growth. Look at this pattern, Sarah said, highlighting a section of the timeline. Every single species that's currently on the Galactic Council went through the same sequence. First contact with an established galactic power, rapid technological advancement through knowledge sharing, integration into the galactic community, and then stagnation. Elena studied the data more carefully. They stopped developing new technology. Worse than that, they become completely dependent on the shared knowledge pool. Look at the Valthon Empire. They haven't invented anything genuinely new in over 200 years. The Zephyrian Collective hasn't had an original scientific breakthrough in 3 centuries. Every advance they've made has been based on modifications of existing galactic technology. James leaned over Elena's shoulder, pointing to specific data points. It gets worse. When we analyzed their current military capabilities, we found something disturbing. None of these species could survive on their own anymore. They've become so interdependent that losing access to the galactic technology base would cause complete societal collapse within decades. Elena felt a chill run down her spine as the implications became clear. They're not offering us membership in a galactic community. They're offering us domestication. Exactly, Sarah confirmed. The Galactic Council isn't a confederation of equals. It's a carefully maintained system, designed to prevent any member species from becoming truly independent. They share just enough technology to make everyone dependent, but never enough to allow genuine innovation. The 3 scientists stood in silence for a moment, absorbing the magnitude of their discovery. Elena finally broke the quiet. Show me the exceptions. Sarah's expression grew darker as she manipulated the display. There have been 17 species over the past millennium that refused initial contact with the Council, choosing instead to develop independently. Want to guess what happened to them? The timeline shifted to show a series of red markers scattered across the galactic map. Each marker represented a civilization that had vanished completely, their homeworlds either abandoned or turned into lifeless rocks. Extermination? Elena asked. Not directly, James replied. The Council has a more subtle approach. First, they implement economic isolation. No trade, no access to galactic shipping lanes, no technological exchange. Most species can survive that. But then they introduce what they call stability operations, which are? Sarah highlighted one of the red markers and a detailed report appeared alongside it. They identify and eliminate key individuals within the target civilization. Scientists, military leaders, innovative thinkers. They do it carefully, making it look like accidents, natural disasters, internal conflicts. The species gradually loses its ability to advance or even maintain its current technology level. Elena read through the report, her horror growing with each page. The extinct civilization had followed a path that was eerily similar to humanity's current trajectory. Independent development, refusal to join the galactic community, followed by a slow decline that ended in complete technological collapse. How long does the process usually take? She asked. Between 50 and 70 years, James answered quietly. We're currently in year 52 of our isolation. The implications hit Elena like a physical blow. The Galactic Council hadn't given up on humanity because they believed humans were cowards. They had given up because the elimination process was already well underway. The natural disasters that had struck some of Earth's colonies, the mysterious deaths of several prominent human scientists, the technical failures that had plagued certain research projects, none of it had been coincidence. They've been trying to kill us for decades, she whispered. The good news, Sarah said with a grim smile, is that they've been failing. Human redundancy protocols, our distributed research networks, our paranoid security measures, everything they mocked as primitive cowardice has actually been protecting us from systematic assassination. Elena began to pace, her mind racing through the implications. This changes our entire strategic picture. We're not preparing for first contact with a galactic community. We're preparing to fight for the survival of our species against an organization that has successfully committed genocide 17 times. There's more, James said reluctantly. We've identified the pattern they use for the final elimination phase. When subtle methods fail, they implement what they call containment protocols. It involves the deployment of planet-killing weapons disguised as natural phenomena. Stellar engineering, Elena realized. They have the technology to trigger solar flares, asteroid impacts, gravitational anomalies. According to our projections, humanity has approximately 18 months before they move to final containment protocols. After that, every human world will experience a series of unfortunate cosmic events that will render them uninhabitable. Elena stopped pacing and turned to face her colleagues. Does Admiral Chen know about this? We transmitted our findings to Fleet Command 6 hours ago, Sarah confirmed. The Admiral's response was colorful, Elena could imagine. Admiral Chen had spent decades preparing humanity for a war she thought would be about territorial expansion and resource control. Now she was learning that it was actually about species survival against opponents who had perfected the art of civilizational murder. What about our countermeasures? James brought up another display, this one showing the current status of various human defensive systems. Project Aegis is operational across all 43 hidden colonies. We can deflect or destroy any asteroid impact, solar flare, or gravitational weapon they might deploy. Project Oracle gives us advance warning of any such attempts. And if they decide to use more direct methods, then they'll discover that the primitive kinetic weapons they've been mocking are quite effective at turning their elegant ships into expanding clouds of superheated plasma, Sarah said with savage satisfaction. Elena nodded slowly, feeling a familiar mixture of fear and determination that had become humanity's defining emotion. Over the past 50 years, the galaxy had taken one look at humanity and decided they were weak, cowardly, and disposable. They had spent decades trying to murder the entire human race through subtle assassination and sabotage. They have no idea what they've unleashed, she said quietly. No, James agreed. They see our paranoia, our security measures, our isolation as signs of weakness. They don't understand that every human who died in their accidents taught us something new about their methods. Every failed sabotage attempt helped us develop better defenses. Every year of isolation gave us more time to prepare. Elena looked around the archive at the hundreds of researchers who had dedicated their lives to understanding humanity's enemies. Soon, very soon, all of their work would be put to the ultimate test. Send a message to Admiral Chen, she instructed. Tell her that the Xenological Research Division has confirmed her operational assumptions. The Galaxy Council is a predatory organization that has committed genocide 17 times. They are currently in the process of attempting to murder every human in existence. And then, Elena smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. Then we show them what happens when you try to exterminate a species that fights back. Captain Marcus Webb stood on the bridge of the UES Phantom, watching the tactical display as his ship ghosted through the outer regions of the Centauri Nexus, the Galaxy Council's primary military staging area. His vessel was completely invisible to alien sensors, wrapped in technology that the Council's greatest scientists insisted was impossible, a perfect electromagnetic cloak that bent all known forms of detection around the ship, like water around a stone. Contact bearing, 27 Mark IV, whispered Lieutenant Torres from the sensor station. Velthon Heavy Cruiser Triumph class. She's holding position at the edge of the asteroid field. Webb nodded, studying the alien vessel through his ship's passive sensors. The Velthon cruiser was beautiful in the way that all Council ships were beautiful. Graceful curves, elegant proportions, and a hull that seemed to glow with inner light. It was also completely helpless against what Webb was about to do to it. Time to target, 47 minutes until we reach optimal firing position, responded his weapons officer, Commander Sarah Park. All Harbinger missiles are loaded and ready. The Harbinger missiles were humanity's answer to the Council's belief in their technological superiority. Each missile was no larger than a coffee cup, but contained a quantum-entangled warhead that could phase through any known shielding technology before detonating inside a target's hull. The aliens had never seen anything like them because they had never bothered to investigate the theoretical physics behind dimensional penetration. They considered such research too dangerous and primitive. "Sir," called out his communications officer, "we're receiving the scheduled transmission from command." Webb accepted the encrypted datapad and quickly reviewed the latest intelligence. The news was both encouraging and terrifying. Humanity's surveillance network had identified a massive Council fleet buildup in 7 different sectors, with a combined force of over 3,000 ships. The official explanation was routine patrol exercises, but the fleet composition told a different story. These were extermination fleets armed with planet-killing weapons and stellar manipulation devices. "Status of our sister ships?" Webb asked. "All Phantom-class vessels are in position," Torres reported. 16 ships spread across the staging areas. "We have eyes on approximately 60% of the Council's first strike force." Webb felt a cold satisfaction. While the aliens had been congratulating themselves on their successful intimidation of humanity, 64 human ships had been quietly infiltrating their most secure military installations. The Council believed their bases were impregnable, protected by the most advanced sensor networks and defense systems in the galaxy. They had never imagined that a primitive species might develop technology that rendered all of their defenses useless. "Sir," Commander Park said quietly, "I'm reading weapon signatures from the Velthon vessel. They're charging their stellar torpedo launchers." Webb's blood ran cold. Stellar torpedoes were designed for one purpose: destroying stars. The Council planned to turn Sol into a supernova, wiping out not just humanity but every form of life in their home system. It would look like a natural stellar event to any distant observers, just another tragic cosmic accident. "Time to firing range?" 8 minutes, sir." Webb considered his options. His orders were clear: observe and report only. Do not engage unless directly threatened. Admiral Chen wanted absolute confirmation of the Council's intentions before authorizing humanity's response. But 8 minutes might not be enough time to warn Earth if the aliens launched their attack immediately. Communications. Send a priority flash message to Admiral Chen. Confirmed Council forces are preparing stellar weapons for immediate deployment against Sol. Time to impact unknown. Message sent, sir. Quantum entanglement ensures instantaneous delivery. The bridge fell silent except for the soft hum of the ship's systems. Everyone understood what they were witnessing. The Galactic Council was about to attempt the murder of every human being in existence, including the 12 billion people living on Earth who had no idea what was coming. "Sir," Torres announced suddenly. "Multiple new contacts. I count 47 additional Council vessels dropping out of hyperspace." Webb watched as the tactical display filled with red icons representing enemy ships. Each one was a masterpiece of advanced technology, crewed by beings who considered themselves the pinnacle of galactic civilization. They had come here to commit genocide with the casual efficiency of exterminators dealing with an insect infestation. "Sir, incoming transmission from the lead vessel," the communications officer reported. "It's addressed to the human observers." Webb felt his heart skip a beat. "They know we're here?" "Impossible, sir. Our cloak is perfect. No known technology can penetrate it. Put the transmission through." The main screen flickered, revealing the bridge of a massive Council dreadnought. At its center stood Ambassador Zethkar of the Velthon Empire, his forearms spread wide in what might have been a gesture of welcome or threat. "Greetings, human observers," Zethkar said, his translated voice carrying a tone of supreme condescension. "Please do not be alarmed by our current military exercises. The Galactic Council has no intention of causing harm to your species, despite your continued refusal to join our community." Webb exchanged glances with his officers. The alien was talking directly to them, but how? "We understand that humanity has developed certain innovative technologies during your isolation. Your stealth capabilities are quite impressive, though not as advanced as you might believe. We have been aware of your surveillance efforts for several months." The blood drained from Webb's face. If the Council knew about the Phantom-class ships, they might know about everything else as well. "However," Zethkar continued, "we wish to extend one final offer of peaceful integration. Despite the evidence of your cowardice and primitive nature, the Council is prepared to overlook these deficiencies in the interest of galactic harmony. We offer you full membership, access to our accumulated knowledge, and protection under our military umbrella." Webb looked at the tactical display, where 48 alien warships were arranged in perfect formation around his position. "Protection indeed. You have exactly 1 standard hour to provide a response. We require the unconditional surrender of all human military forces, the dismantling of your cloaking technology, and the immediate relocation of your entire population to designated worlds where you can be properly integrated into galactic society." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Webb realized that humanity's greatest deception had finally been discovered. The aliens knew about the hidden fleets, the advanced technology, the surveillance network, but they still didn't understand what they were dealing with. "Sir," Commander Park said quietly, "we have weapons lock on all enemy vessels. Harbinger missiles can penetrate their shields and destroy their ships before they have time to respond." Webb nodded slowly. "Prepare to fire on my command." "Sir, shouldn't we wait for orders from Admiral Chen?" Webb looked at the chronometer on his display. 57 minutes until the Council's deadline expired. 57 minutes before they would discover whether humanity had accepted slavery or chosen death. "Negative, Commander. Our orders are to defend humanity by any means necessary. The moment these ships move towards Sol, we engage." Around the galaxy, 15 other Phantom-class vessels were having identical conversations. Their captains were making the same calculation, reaching the same conclusion. The time for hiding was over. The time for pretending to be weak had ended. Webb opened a channel to his ship's crew. "All hands, this is the captain. For 50 years, humanity has prepared for this moment. The Galaxy Council has revealed their true nature. They are predators who have exterminated 17 civilizations and now intend to do the same to us. In approximately 50 minutes, they will learn that humanity is not prey." He closed the channel and turned to his weapons officer. "Commander Park, you may fire when ready." The galaxy was about to discover what humans had been building in the darkness between the stars, and why they had never been afraid of the monsters hiding in the void. Admiral Chen stood in the command center of Fortress Luna, watching as tactical displays showed the positions of over 4,000 alien warships spread across 17 sectors. The massive underground facility had been carved from the moon's interior over the course of 30 years, its existence completely unknown to the Galactic Council, despite their supposed surveillance of human space. "Admiral," called out Captain Rodriguez, her chief of staff. "We've received confirmation from all Phantom units. The Council fleet is moving to attack positions. Estimated time to weapons range of human colonies is 93 minutes. Chen nodded grimly. The moment of truth had finally arrived. For 50 years, humanity had prepared for this day, knowing that their refusal to submit to alien control would eventually lead to attempted genocide. Now the galaxy would learn why humans had spent decades building the most advanced military in known space. Status of Operation Revelation: all human fleets are in position, Rodriguez reported. 12,000 ships across 43 hidden colonies. The Galactic Council believes they're facing 7 primitive worlds with minimal defenses. They have no idea that they're about to encounter a force 10 times larger than their own. Chen allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. The aliens had been so confident in their surveillance capabilities that they had never questioned why human expansion had been so limited. They had assumed cowardice rather than strategy, never suspecting that humanity had been secretly colonizing systems throughout the galaxy, using technology that made their ships completely undetectable. Communications: open a channel to all fleet commanders. The main display shifted to show dozens of faces, each representing the captain of a human dreadnought hidden somewhere in the vast darkness of space. These were the men and women who had volunteered to spend decades away from Earth, establishing humanity's secret military infrastructure in systems the aliens considered worthless or uninhabitable. "Ladies and gentlemen," Chen began, "the Galactic Council has revealed their true nature. They are not the peaceful civilization they pretend to be, but a predatory organization that has systematically exterminated 17 species who refused to submit to their control. They are now moving to do the same to humanity." She paused, studying the determined faces of her commanders. These people had sacrificed everything for this moment, spending years in isolation while their species prepared for war. In approximately 90 minutes, they will launch their attack on our visible colonies. They expect to face primitive defenses and outdated technology. Instead, they will encounter the full might of humanity's true military capabilities. Operation Revelation begins now. The display shifted again, showing the tactical situation across multiple star systems. Chen watched as thousands of green icons began to move, representing human ships emerging from their hiding places throughout the galaxy. Each vessel was equipped with technology that the Council had dismissed as impossible, weapons that their greatest scientists had never imagined, and defensive systems that rendered their most advanced attacks useless. "Admiral," announced her sensor officer, "we're detecting massive energy signatures from the Council fleets. They're charging their stellar manipulation weapons." Chen felt her jaw clench. The aliens weren't planning to simply destroy human colonies. They intended to trigger supernovas in every system containing human life. It was genocide on a scale that would eliminate any trace of humanity's existence from the galaxy. Initiate Operation Shepherd. Across 17 star systems, hidden human facilities activated technology that the Galactic Council had never suspected existed. Quantum disruption fields spread outward at faster-than-light speeds, designed to remotely disable the primary systems of any alien vessel within a 50 light-year radius. The technology was based on principles that the aliens had never bothered to investigate, considering such research too dangerous and unpredictable. "Effects in 10 seconds, reported the officer in charge of Operation Shepherd. 9, 8, 7. Chen watched the tactical displays as thousands of red icons, representing Council ships, suddenly began to flicker. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Activation. Every Council vessel in 17 different systems simultaneously lost power to their primary systems. Weapons went offline, shields collapsed, and propulsion failed as quantum disruption waves tore through their carefully designed technologies. In the space of a single second, the greatest military force in galactic history had been rendered completely helpless. "Status report," Chen ordered. "Complete success, Admiral. All Council vessels are dead in space. They have emergency power only. No weapons, no shields, no faster-than-light capability." Chen nodded with satisfaction. Operation Shepherd had been humanity's insurance policy, a way to neutralize the Council threat without necessarily destroying every enemy ship. But the aliens had chosen to load stellar weapons, and that changed everything. "Open a channel to the Council fleet commanders. The main display shifted to show Ambassador Zethkar on the bridge of his disabled flagship. The alien's forearms were gesturing frantically as his crew struggled with failed systems, but his translator collar was still functioning. Zethkar of the Velthon Empire, Chen said, her voice carrying the authority of an entire species. I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Space Forces. Your fleet has been disabled to prevent the genocide you were about to commit. The alien's expression shifted from confusion to shock as he realized what had happened. Impossible. Humans lack the technology to do what? Chen interrupted. To build 12,000 advanced warships? To colonize 60 star systems without your knowledge? To develop quantum disruption technology that your scientists considered impossible? You have spent 50 years mocking humanity's silence, never questioning what we might have been doing during that time. Zethkar's four eyes widened as the implications became clear. 12,000 ships? 60 systems? But our surveillance showed only 7 primitive colonies. Your surveillance showed exactly what we wanted you to see, Chen replied coldly. While you were congratulating yourselves on your technological superiority, humanity was building the most advanced civilization in galactic history. Every system you considered worthless, every region of space you thought uninhabitable, every asteroid field you deemed too dangerous to explore, we colonized them all. The alien's translator collar struggled to convey his species' equivalent of terror. What do you want? Chen leaned forward, her expression hardening. We want you to understand something very important, Zethkar. Humanity is not the primitive, cowardly species you believed us to be. We are the apex predators of this galaxy, and you have just made the mistake of threatening our children. Around the galaxy, human fleets began to move toward their helpless targets. Each ship was equipped with weapons that could crack planets and shields that could deflect stellar-scale energies. The technology was beyond anything the Council had imagined possible, developed by a species that had learned warfare through millennia of conflict and perfected it through decades of paranoid preparation. However, Chen continued,
humanity is not the genocidal monster that you have proven yourselves to be.
Your crews will be allowed to evacuate to designated safe zones before your ships are destroyed. Your species will be relocated to worlds appropriate for your needs under human supervision. You're conquering the galaxy? Zethkar whispered. No, Chen replied. We're liberating it. For too long, the Galactic Council has suppressed technological development, eliminated independent civilizations, and maintained control through fear and manipulation. That ends now. She gestured to her communications officer, who began transmitting on all galactic frequencies. Citizens of the galaxy, Chen announced, this is Admiral Sarah Chen of humanity. The organization you know as the Galactic Council has been systematically murdering any species that refuses to submit to their control. They have committed genocide 17 times and were preparing to do so again. Humanity will not allow this to continue. The transmission reached every inhabited world in the galaxy, carried by quantum-entangled communication systems that made the Council's technology look primitive by comparison. We offer the people of the galaxy a choice that the Council never gave you. True freedom and technological advancement, or continued subjugation under a new management. Choose wisely. Chen closed the transmission and turned back to Zethkar. You have 48 hours to begin evacuation procedures. Any attempt to restore your weapon systems will result in the immediate destruction of your vessel. As the connection ended, Chen allowed herself to feel the weight of what had just transpired. In the space of a few hours, humanity had revealed the greatest deception in galactic history and fundamentally altered the balance of power among the stars. The galaxy had mocked humanity's silence for 50 years. Now they would learn to fear humanity's voice. 6 months after what historians would later call the revelation, Dr. Elena Vasquez walked through the corridors of the newly established Galactic Administration Center on Mars. The massive complex had been built with stunning speed using human construction technology that could reshape matter at the molecular level, creating structures that would have taken the old Galactic Council decades to complete. The center buzzed with activity as representatives from hundreds of species worked alongside human administrators to build something the galaxy had never seen before, a truly democratic interstellar government. The contrast with the old council chambers was striking. Where the alien facility had been designed to emphasize hierarchy and dominance, the human-built center promoted collaboration and equality. Dr. Vasquez, called out Ambassador Sarah Kim, formerly a xenological researcher and now humanity's chief diplomatic officer. The Velthon delegation is requesting another meeting about their resettlement terms. Elena nodded, consulting her datapad. The Velthon had been among the most vocal critics of humanity's primitive nature, and they were having considerable difficulty adjusting to their new circumstances. Like most of the former council species, they had been relocated to worlds that would support their biological needs while keeping them safely separated from the species they had previously dominated. How are they adapting to actually having to work for their resources? Elena asked. Sarah's expression was a mixture of amusement and sympathy. Not well. For the past 3 centuries, they've been accustomed to simply taking what they needed from subject species. The concept of voluntary trade and mutual benefit is challenging for them. Elena understood the problem. The psychological profiles her team had developed showed that most council species had become fundamentally dependent on exploitation. They had lost the ability to innovate, create, or even maintain their own societies without the forced labor and resources of primitive civilizations. What about the other species? Mixed results. The Krixtal are actually doing quite well. Turns out they were never really comfortable with the Council's methods anyway. The Zephyrians are struggling but adapting. The Synthetic Collective is, well, they're trying to negotiate a merger with our AI research division. Elena laughed. The Synthetic Collective had been shocked to discover that humanity had developed artificial intelligence that was not only more advanced than their own, but was also treated as full citizens rather than tools. The concept of AI rights had never occurred to them. And the liberation efforts? Sarah's expression grew more serious. That's where the real work is happening. We've identified over 400 species that were classified as primitive or uncontacted by the Council. Most of them have been deliberately suppressed through sabotage, assassination, and technological interference. Elena pulled up a holographic display showing the current status of humanity's liberation efforts. The scale was staggering. Entire civilizations that had been held back for centuries were finally being allowed to reach their potential with human assistance and protection. The hegemony worlds are responding particularly well, Sarah continued. Turns out they had developed faster than light travel 60 years ago, but the Council destroyed their research facilities and eliminated their scientists. We've helped them rebuild their program and they're already establishing new colonies. Any resistance? Some. There are a few species that genuinely believed in the Council's propaganda about galactic stability and protection. They're having trouble accepting that their benevolent government was actually a genocidal empire. Elena nodded. The psychological adjustment was understandable. For many species, the Galactic Council had represented safety and advancement for so long that learning the truth was traumatic. Humanity's xenological teams were working around the clock to provide counseling and support for species struggling with the revelation. Dr. Vasquez, interrupted a new voice. Elena turned to see Commander Park, one of Admiral Chen's senior officers, approaching with a datapad. We need your expertise on a situation developing in the outer spiral. Elena accepted the pad and quickly reviewed the information. The Dominion cluster? I thought that was classified as a dead zone by the Council. It was. But our deep space reconnaissance has found something interesting. The cluster isn't dead, it's quarantined. There are at least a dozen civilizations in that region, all of them showing technology levels comparable to or exceeding the former Council species. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. They've been hiding an entire sector of advanced civilizations? Worse than that, Commander Park replied. Based on their communication patterns and defensive postures, these civilizations appear to be at war with each other. We think the Council was using them as a testing ground for military technology, allowing them to develop advanced weapons while keeping them isolated and focused on mutual destruction. Sarah stepped closer, her expression horrified. They were using entire civilizations as weapons research laboratories. That's our preliminary assessment. The good news is that now that the Council's containment systems have been disabled, these civilizations are starting to communicate with the outside galaxy. The bad news is that they have technology that could pose a significant threat if they decide to expand beyond their current territory. Elena considered the implications. The Galactic Council's crimes kept getting worse with every new discovery. Not only had they been systematically exterminating independent species, but they had also been deliberately fostering conflict between advanced civilizations to harvest the resulting military innovations. What's Admiral Chen's assessment? She wants to establish contact immediately. These civilizations have been isolated for so long that they have no idea what's been happening in the rest of the galaxy. For all they know, the Council is still in power and we're another subject species. Elena made her decision. Tell the Admiral that the xenological team will be ready to depart within 12 hours. We'll need our best first contact specialists and a full diplomatic escort. As Commander Park left to relay the message, Elena turned back to Sarah. This is going to keep happening, isn't it? Every month we discover new horrors that the Council was hiding. Probably, Sarah agreed. But we also keep discovering new allies and new possibilities. Did you see the report from the Kepler system? Elena shook her head and Sarah brought up another holographic display. The species there had achieved interstellar travel 300 years ago, but the Council convinced them that faster-than-light travel was impossible and dangerous. They've been slowly colonizing their local stellar group using generation ships. When we showed them our fold space technology, they were able to adapt it to their existing infrastructure within weeks. How many colonies? Over 200. They're actually the largest human-allied civilization in terms of total population, and their research into long-term space habitation is centuries ahead of anything we've developed. Elena smiled. For every Council atrocity they uncovered, they also found evidence of the incredible potential that had been suppressed throughout the galaxy. Species that had been labeled as primitive were revealing remarkable innovations and capabilities once they were freed from Council interference. Dr. Vasquez called out another voice. Elena turned to see Dr. Morrison, head of the Technology Integration Project, approaching with excitement written across his face. You need to see what the Borderland Coalition just shared with us. He activated a portable holographic projector, showing technical specifications that made Elena's eyes widen. They've developed technology that can reverse stellar engineering. All those systems the Council destroyed over the centuries can be restored. Elena stared at the specifications, hardly believing what she was seeing. We can bring back the extinct species? Not the species themselves, but their homeworlds. We can reignite dead stars, restore planetary atmospheres, even rebuild destroyed planets using quantum reconstruction techniques. The Coalition developed it as a defense against Council stellar weapons, but the applications for restoration are incredible. Elena felt tears of joy forming in her eyes. The galaxy had lost so much to the Council's tyranny, but perhaps it wasn't all gone forever. With human protection and alien innovation, they might be able to undo at least some of the damage caused by centuries of oppression. How long before we can begin restoration efforts? The Coalition wants to establish a joint research facility. With human resources and their expertise, we could have the first test system restored within a year. Elena nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility and opportunity. Humanity had revealed their hidden strength and defeated the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known. Now came the harder task, building something better from the ruins of the old order. The galaxy had mocked humanity's silence for 50 years. Now they were learning to appreciate humanity's voice in building a future worthy of all sentient life. 10 years after the fall of the Galactic Council, Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the UES Unity, watching as the first restored star in the hegemony system ignited in a brilliant burst of renewed life. The massive fusion reaction that had been artificially snuffed out by Council weapons 3 centuries ago now burned steadily once again, bringing light and warmth to worlds that had been frozen in darkness for generations. Stellar ignition successful, reported Captain Rodriguez, now her second in command. All planetary restoration systems are coming online. The Coalition's quantum reconstruction technology is working exactly as projected. Chen nodded, feeling a deep satisfaction that went beyond mere military victory. This moment represented something far more important than humanity's triumph over the Council. It was proof that the galaxy could heal from centuries of oppression and artificial scarcity. Status. Report on the colonization efforts. Remarkable progress, Admiral. The first generation of hegemony children to be born under their restored star will arrive in approximately 7 months. The psychological impact on their society has been transformative. Chen understood. The hegemony species had spent 300 years believing their homeworld was lost forever, that their people were doomed to slowly die out on marginal colony worlds. The restoration of their primary system hadn't just given them back their home, It had given them back their future. What about the other restoration projects? Rodriguez consulted her datapad. 17 star systems have been successfully restored using coalition technology. Another 43 are in various stages of reconstruction. The Valthon homeworld should have its atmosphere restored within the next 6 months. Chen smiled. The Valthon had been among the most arrogant members of the old council, dismissing humanity as primitive cowards. Now they were utterly dependent on human protection and alien cooperation for the restoration of their own civilization. The irony was not lost on anyone involved in the project. "Admiral," interrupted her communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from the Deep Survey Fleet. Admiral Park reports they've made first contact with another hidden civilization in the Andromeda Transit Corridor." Chen accepted the transmission, watching as the familiar face of Admiral David Park appeared on the main screen. His expression was a mixture of excitement and concern that Chen had learned to recognize over their years of working together. "Sarah," Park said without preamble, "you need to see what we've found. This civilization makes the Council look like primitive raiders." Chen felt her blood run cold. "How advanced are we talking about?" "They've achieved complete mastery over space-time manipulation. They can create pocket dimensions, travel instantaneously across galactic distances, and manipulate matter at the subatomic level. But here's the interesting part. They've been hiding from the Council for over 1,000 years. The implications hit Chen immediately. They knew about the Council's true nature. More than that, they've been actively protecting other species from Council attention. Remember all those civilizations we thought the Council had missed? This species, they call themselves the Architects, has been secretly relocating endangered civilizations to hidden dimensions. Chen stared at the transmission in amazement. The scope of the deception was staggering. While the Council had believed they were the dominant force in the galaxy, an even more advanced civilization had been working against them for centuries. "How many species are we talking about?" "Thousands," Park replied quietly. "The Architects have been maintaining entire dimensional pockets filled with civilizations that the Council believed they had exterminated. They've been waiting for someone powerful enough to actually challenge the Council's dominance." "And they think humanity qualifies?" Park's expression grew more serious. "Sarah, they've been watching us for the past 50 years. They know about our hidden fleets, our advanced technology, our strategic deception. They say humanity demonstrated something they hadn't seen in over a millennium, the ability to think on a civilizational timescale while maintaining individual initiative and innovation." Chen considered the implications. The Architects had been protecting the galaxy's endangered species for centuries, but they had apparently lacked the military capability or the strategic vision to directly challenge the Council. Humanity's emergence as a galactic power had finally given them the opportunity they had been waiting for. What do they want? They're offering a formal alliance, complete technological exchange, access to their hidden civilizations, and cooperation in what they call the Grand Restoration. They want to bring back every species the Council ever destroyed and create a truly free galactic civilization. Chen felt the weight of the moment. Humanity had already transformed from a seemingly primitive species into the dominant power in the galaxy. Now they were being offered the chance to help reshape the fundamental nature of galactic civilization itself. "Patch me through to Dr. Vasquez and the diplomatic team." Within minutes, Chen was addressing a joint session of humanity's senior leadership. The faces on her screen represented the people who had guided humanity through the greatest deception and the most significant victory in galactic history. "Ladies and gentlemen," Chen began, "we have an opportunity that goes beyond anything we've previously imagined. The Architects are offering us the chance to restore not just individual worlds or species, but the entire galactic ecosystem that the Council spent millennia destroying." Dr. Vasquez leaned forward on her screen. "What are the risks?" "Unknown," Chen admitted. "The Architects claim to be benevolent, but they've been manipulating galactic events for centuries without revealing themselves. We would be entering into an alliance with beings whose true motivations we don't fully understand. On the other hand," added Dr. Morrison, "we would gain access to technology that could solve virtually every resource and expansion challenge we face. Dimensional pockets could provide unlimited space for colonization. Subatomic manipulation could eliminate scarcity entirely." Chen nodded. The question before us is whether humanity is ready to take the next step in our evolution. We've proven we can defend ourselves and liberate others. Now we have the chance to become something more, the guardians and restorers of galactic civilization itself. The debate that followed lasted for hours, covering everything from technological integration to philosophical implications. In the end, the decision was unanimous. Humanity had spent 50 years preparing for war against a galactic empire. They would spend the next 50 building something better. "Admiral Park," Chen said, reopening the communication channel, "please inform the architects that humanity accepts their alliance. We're ready to begin the grand restoration." As the transmission ended, Chen returned to the observation deck and watched the restored star burning steadily in the distance. Soon that single point of light would be joined by thousands of others as extinct civilizations were brought back from dimensional hiding places, and dead worlds were restored to life. Galaxy had mocked humanity's silence for 50 years, never understanding that silence was not fear but preparation. They had dismissed humanity as primitive cowards, never realizing that what they saw as cowardice was actually strategic patience on a scale they couldn't comprehend. Now the galaxy would learn what humanity had truly been preparing for during those long years of apparent isolation. Not just war, not just survival, but the chance to heal a wounded galaxy and build a civilization worthy of the countless species that called it home. The age of the Galactic Council was over. The age of the galactic restoration had begun, and at its heart stood humanity. No longer the silent observers, hiding in the darkness between the stars, but the guardians of light itself, ensuring that no voice would ever again be silenced by those who mistook patience for weakness, preparation for cowardice, or silence for submission. The galaxy had finally learned to listen to humanity's voice, and humanity's voice spoke of hope, restoration, and the promise that every species, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, had the right to reach for the stars and find their place among them.